Here's what wealthy families know about retirement income that middle-class families miss. It's not about having the most money. It's about having the right type of money. After analyzing hundreds of retirement plans as a certified financial planner and an IRS enrolled agent, I've discovered that they optimize for something that's completely different than what most advisors recommend. They stop looking at account titles and balances and start looking at function. They understand that every dollar in retirement is exposed to distinct risks. You essentially have two types of money in retirement, and understanding their profiles is everything. The first type is our safety floor. This is our guaranteed income sources from Social Security and pension. This money shows up every month like clockwork. Now, what are the risks that this solves? The living too long risk. You cannot outlive it. And market risks. This is protected from stock market crashes. Now, the risk that it creates is rising costs over time, especially with simple cost of living raises or no cost of living raises. More on that in a moment. Our second type of wealth is the freedom fund. These are your balances, most readily seen on statements. This is your liquid wealth, and this is what you control and have flexibility to weather storms over time. Now, risks that it solves are the costs of things rising over time. Growth potential keeps up with rising costs. Cash access risk is another risk. Massive flexibility for emergencies, opportunities, or leaving money as a legacy. Now let's talk about the risk that it creates. Living too long. We spend too much early and we might outlive our money. And that gets us into the next one, market risk. Bad timing can destroy your plan if you take money out during market drops and it doesn't have enough to recover from. There's no perfect solution that gets rid of all of these risks. Your income decisions are really asking you which types of risks keep you up at night. Because every choice you make moves risk from one bucket to another. Here's what most people don't realize. Many pensions don't offer any cost of living raises at all. You get the same dollar amount for life while everything gets more expensive. But there is a huge difference between them, and it's critical that you dig into which type of pension options you have. It helps for us to compare this to Social Security cost of living raises. If you get 2.5% raise this year, next year's raise calculates on that new higher amount. It grows on itself, providing strong protection against rising costs over 20 or 30 years. Now, what this is called is compound cost of living adjustments. Government pensions are a mixed bag in the sense that some offer the same benefit as Social Security's compound cost of living adjustment, whereas others are simple interest. Simple interest is devastating over time. If you start with $2,000 monthly as a pension with 3% simple adjustment, you get $60 extra the first year, but in year 20, you still only get that same $60 raise calculated on your original amount, while everything else along the way has doubled in cost. We're not just making this decision based on rising cost protection alone. You need to know exactly what type of cost of living protection your specific pension offers. We cannot start with maximizing or tax planning. We have to start with risk planning. Too many people let the tax tail or investment tail wag the dog. They plan for savings while accidentally choosing the wrong risk profile for their personality and circumstances. In my practice, we start every conversation with a simple question. What risks are we trying to solve for first? Only after we identify your primary risk concerns based off of your goals, tolerance, and asset base can we start planning for a cohesive retirement strategy that serves your goals. We stress test. What if we live to 95? What if costs of living increase to 4%? What if markets crash year 3 in retirement and never come back? Now we can start to talk about behavior here, because this is where traditional calculators just completely fail people. And there's been some new research here that's changed the way that I think about retirement planning. And this research reveals what I call underspending crisis. And it's directly connected with how different income sources manage market risk and living too long risk, longevity risk. Retirees taking money from accounts underspend nearly 50% because they're terrified of running out. They see their 401k and retirement balances dropping every month during market ups, and downs and feel poor when they're taking distributions, even when they're mathematically fine. They're experiencing market risk in real time and it stops their spending. We've been squirreling away for the proverbial retirement winter and we don't know how cold and how long that winter will be. But retirees with guaranteed income, they spend twice as freely on enjoyment because that money hits their checking account automatically. They've moved their living too long risk and market risk to an insurance company or a government entity, giving them what researchers call permission to spend. Your spending confidence isn't just about account balances. It's about which risks you've gotten rid of versus which ones you're still carrying. Meet Sarah and Tom, both 62, both facing identical pension decisions. $2,000 monthly for life or $400,000 lump sum rollover. They were choosing between different risk profiles. Sarah chose the monthly pension plus delayed Social Security. She made getting rid of living too long and market risk for her priority, accepting rising costs and cash access risk instead. Tom took the lump sum and claimed Social Security early. He kept market and living too long risk, but gained rising cost protection and cash flexibility access. Mathematically, Tom came out ahead by $50,000 over 15 years. But the plot twist is that Sarah spent $40,000 more on enjoyment, travel, and experiences because she felt wealthy every month. Tom, watching his balance drop during 2 market corrections, lived like he was poor despite being mathematically ahead. Sarah had successfully moved the risks that kept her awake at night and managed those. Tom had flexibility and growth potential, but carried the stress of the market's ups and downs and living too long uncertainty. This is why we can't start with optimizing taxes or investments or pure mathematical analysis. We have to identify which risks matter most to us personally. Then build the strategy around that foundation, not just of our risk tolerance, but the rest of our assets that we have. Now, an often discussed risk here on income streams has to do with our surviving spouse for those of us who are married. Skip ahead if we are not married here, but now this is where we start to think about guaranteed income and the case for delaying or taking more insurance from a pension 50%, 75%, or 100% survivorship option, but only after we've identified what risk we're solving for. And in order for us to explore this, we need to understand that when one spouse dies, Social Security, the smaller benefit vanishes and the survivor keeps the higher one. With our pension, depending on your election, income might be cut in half or disappear. Next is taxes. The survivor files as a single individual. What this does is it cuts tax brackets in half. All else remaining equal, taxes would increase. And then we have the other consideration that are risk profile changes. The survivor often faces increased living too long risk with reduced guaranteed income. The critical insight here is if you claim Social Security early and take a single life pension for maximum current income, you're betting your spouse's financial security on your life expectancy. You've made current cash access and income your priority over long-term risk management. Now, when we think about this from a planning perspective, as an advisor, I will run multiple scenarios to see, will our surviving spouse be okay with 50%, 75%, or will they need the full insurance benefit on our life of 100%? So we need to plan for the worst and hope for the best. To the extent we're trying to manage this more, we would use more of our funds in a 401k or investment accounts to bridge the gap, spending flexible assets so you can delay further down the line. You're buying cost-effective living too long in rising cost insurance, but this strategy only makes sense if living too long risk is one of your primary concerns and we have a large age discrepancy between our two spouses. Now I'd like to talk about a framework and approach that I've used. We start with risk planning, not tax planning. Your decision comes down to what risks you're willing to solve for first. And in order to do this, it's helpful to look at 2 profiles. The legacy builder, who's solving for estate risk. The primary risk here would be losing wealth to taxes or poor sequencing. The strategy can be involving a flexible Social Security filing strategy while living off less tax-efficient accounts now. The risk trade-off there is accepting current cash access constraints to preserve tax advantage growth in our accounts down the line. And then we have profile 2, the flexibility seeker, solving for current access risk. Our primary risk would be locked into fixed income without access to large sums. The strategy could be planning for account control and accessibility, where we may roll over our lump sum rollover funds to have more access and availability and take Social Security earlier. The trade-off there is that we accept market and living too long risk for maximum options. Why? Life is unpredictable. You put access over guarantees first. And the third profile is the security focus, solving for living too long and market risk. Primary risk here being outliving money or market crashes destroying your plan. Strategy could be building maximum guaranteed income floors with rising cost protection. The trade-off there is that you accept rising cost and cash access risk for more peace of mind for your bottomless cup of coffee deposits in your bank account. Why? Sleep quality is worth more than maximum planning to these individuals. Here's why this matters right now. You get exactly one chance at these elections, and you can't change your risk profile later. If you realize you chose wrong, I've counseled too many retirees who planned for taxes but ignored their actual risk tolerance and behavior. And there's absolutely nothing that they can do about it once the window closes. This isn't a decision you can reverse or plan better later. Whether it's the pension election, Social Security timing, or how you sequence your withdrawals, these choices lock in your risk exposure for decades. Look, you can run computer testing and software and plan tax brackets all day, but until you identify which risks keep you up at night and the major ones that are represented in your plan based off of your assets and needs, and build your strategy around managing those first, you're essentially building someone else's plan. I encourage you to use the link in the description to schedule time to address how this may be applied to your circumstance. We'll start by identifying your risk priorities, then stress test your specific scenarios across multiple market conditions and living too long outcomes. Only then do we plan for optimizing, because there's no point in optimizing a plan if it's solving for the wrong risks. These are permanent elections that will determine not just your tax bill and ability to spend, but your emotional relationship with money over the next several decades. Let's make sure you get the risk management and tax planning right. This is Bob Wolfe from Healthy FP, where wealth meets well-being. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.